Proverbs chapter 14, verses 12 through 19. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Even in laughter the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this passage that you've given to us, Lord. I pray that you'll help us to consider the importance of looking well to our going, and the importance of making sure that the way that we are going is the correct way. And Lord, I pray that if we see people going the wrong way, that you'll just encourage us and teach us how to help them. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, you may be seated. Okay, so we've been looking at chapter 14 here. Of course, chapter 13 was about the young man hearing his father's instruction. Chapter 12 was about loving your instructors and loving to be instructed. And then chapter 14 here is about the wise woman that buildeth her house. The wise woman that buildeth her house. And so last week we talked about how that is important not to just grab at anything that you see and just say, oh, I want that life or this life or that or the other thing. But you're careful to what you check in. You're careful to what you go for. And a wise woman builds her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hand. She's just going after anything, not realizing what she's grabbing. And then she's surprised that her life is in turmoil because she just grabbed that man, she grabbed that life, she just grabbed the kid and shook him real hard, just different things. They didn't do the proper check. They weren't prudent, they weren't careful, and they destroyed their life because of it. And so last week we looked at, especially in regards to when you build a house, a woman builds her house or builds her realm, her area. Remember, the man goes out there and takes life by the horns and goes on adventures and just brings, slaughters the meat and brings it home to the family, and then the wife cooks it up and builds a life from it. And so he brings the sustenance home, and she builds from that. He brings the materials, and she builds the house from those things. They working together. So the importance, we looked at 8 or 9 things, traits, because the woman builds her house upon her virtue. Remember, the woman before she is married is a virtuous woman, and this virtuous woman becomes wise in the area that she wants, and then she chooses her husband based on 8 or 9 traits that we looked at last week. And then beyond those traits, though, she wants to find somebody who not only has good character and those good virtues that she looks for in a man before she marries him and makes this life with him, but also that the man is also somebody who is intimate with her and cares about her, and when he comes home wants to be one with her and to be have a life with her. It's not just a roommate, not just somebody who goes off and does his thing, comes home and then goes to his own room and lives by himself in proximity to her and giving her money and stuff, but not really being of one mind, of one flesh, of one spirit, of one joy. Not intermingled with her joy and with her pain and with her life. They're not living. She wants somebody who she can live with together. Your brother can have all these things, but you don't want to live with your brother, So you want to have a wife and a husband. You want to have some place where you can build a family with. You don't want somebody that just has these traits that we looked at last week. but has no intimacy with you, to build a life with you, and is just kind of combining resources but nothing else, just platonic relationship. You want to have a close relationship. And so that final value, and if they're all together, and we talked about how that somebody who completely looks for that complete package, not a perfect person by all means, but rather somebody who is striving for that with her, trying to reach that goal to have those virtues within themselves, both of them together, then even if they have little at the very beginning, they will flourish, versus somebody who starts out with a whole lot, but doesn't have these virtues and doesn't have these traits and doesn't have this intimacy with each other. Even if they have a whole lot at the beginning, they will destroy their life because they will not be compatible for building a house. They might have the intimacy, but they have no character traits that will be compatible to building anything. So some men are nice and they're good friends, but you would never want to build a life with them. So that's the example what we were looking at last week. Now this week, the importance of a wife kind of being a check valve for her man, for her husband, is what we have here. How oftentimes everything's going well in your life. The man has all these character traits we looked at last week. He loves you very much and he cares for you, but he gets in his mind. Men are like this. We get in our mind that this is where we're going to go, this is what we're going to do, and this is my goal in life, this is my path in life. And the wife looks at it and says, that is going to destroy us. That is going to harm the family. It says here, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are ways of death. Now, of course, that can be taken by itself. Again, with Proverbs, you have each little verse can be taken by itself or in connection with all the other verses, like a mathematical equation. But we're looking at it in its bigger whole in the context of a wise woman building her house. With that first verse there, we see that is if the way that a man is going could bring destruction to her house, she wants to be certain that he's not going to bring destruction to her house, only the materials that she can use to build her house. And so when she is guiding her husband, guiding her man, she will be looking for things in his path and in his life that might bring danger back to the home. And those ways of death, she's going to be careful to search out in his life. There's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are ways of death. And so so oftentimes men aren't necessarily, they're so focused on the goal that they don't necessarily perceive the danger. How oftentimes we're us men are gung-ho on doing something, but we don't really see the danger. Sometimes even with projects around the house, you see the ladder that we start climbing up on, and one leg is missing, and I'm like, it's okay as long as I balance on one end. She'd be like, no, get yourself a better ladder. You're going to fall and hurt yourself. I'm thinking, this is what I got, this is how I'm going to do it, and this is where we're going to go with it. And she's like, no, get something safer, do it a proper way, do it the right way. So oftentimes we're like, but if I do it that way, it'll cost $10. If I do it this way, it's free. It's like, yeah, but you could break your leg and get a really big medical bill. So you see how oftentimes men will have a purpose and a goal and a direction, but it's not necessarily the right way to do something, and it could cause danger, invite danger. And the wife, one of the big things is you watching out for the household, and that includes the health and safety of your husband in that primary means, because if he departs this world, then it's harder to build a home when you have to also go outside of the home to build that home. So it is a way which seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are ways of death. How oftentimes that Matthew chapter 13 verses 14, Matthew chapter 17 verses 13 through 14 says, enter ye the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go therein at. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. There are a lot of ways to do something, In this more generic understanding of this passage, obviously there is a direct meaning of this. We know that life and death and all that stuff. But in the more generic sense of the broad way, is that there's a lot of ways to do something, but there's only very few safe ways to do something. And how oftentimes, especially men, we find the quick and easiest and fastest, but it's not always the safest. And so the ladies are looking out for us and say, hey, that is a way of danger. That is a way of death. Watch out. And so when we are building our homes, ladies, we need to watch out for men that are, for their safety. Because we don't always look out for our safety. Even in laughter, and notice this too, is even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. And so there are times when even, men try to hide things from you in the sense of they will hide danger from you. Oh, it's okay, no big deal. I'm guilty of this sometimes. Maybe, Bridget kind of catches it pretty quick. I'm not really good at hiding it. But, she'll be like, is this safe to do? Oh, sure. And she's like, no, I don't think it is. So she knows, she catches up. Why? It's because even in laughter, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal. A serious situation. The guy is trying to lighten the burden, and it's like the guilty look. I don't know. It's okay. The guilty look. Even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful. She picks up. The woman picks up more on the emotions. And so the man's going to say, matter of factly, yeah, it's all right. But then she kind of sees the little twitch behind the eye, or the little bit of like he's nervous about something, and something's going on. And there's a danger lurking somewhere, somehow, some way, and he's trying to comfort you, and not necessarily lying, but he's just trying to say, hey, it'll be okay this way or that way. And those are the telltale signs when there is laughter, yet the heart is sorrowful, and there is mirth. Eventually, when you see that there's laughter, yet the heart is sorrowful in a man, then you know that something's going on that will, at the end of that mirth, will be heaviness. And so you got to watch for the joy. Remember, he's intermeddling with your joy. And so, in other words, I kind of see this whereas that what I do will, intermeddle means kind of like to interfere with your joy. It's kind of in that sense. From that previous passage there, where the heart knoweth its own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. Verse 10. So you don't really know the joy or sorrow of a stranger, but your husband, the one closest to you, you'll see that there is sorrow there, and there's a heaviness that you pick up on. And so you got to be careful to say, hey, is this the right direction to go? And such, because sometimes the men will either say, no, this is okay, and maybe they need to find a better or safer way to do it. And the end of that mirth is heaviness. And so the passage here is telling you, ladies, to watch out for that. I don't really like preaching that. It's like, why would I want them to watch out for that? I'm trying to hide it, right? But the passage is encouraging you to watch out for that in your husband, because something's going on. Maybe he can do something a little differently or better, that maybe he's going a wrong way about it. He says, it seems right, this is the way we should go, but no, you're picking up on something that his heart knows that there's something wrong with this direction, and he just needs to have that fleshed out to make it more apparent to himself, to have a sounding board to let him know it's okay to go a different direction. It's okay to look a different way. Maybe there's a third option. And so in building your house, you want to be able to be sure that as your husband is trying to find the right way to go, that you are there comforting him as well, and you are helping him build the right direction and make sure that it is a safer direction. Now, obviously, we don't want to, from fear, not ever do anything, because sometimes we just need to move forward. Sometimes there is going to be danger that we have to move forward through, but oftentimes you want to do that together, and this mirth and this sorrow, we're trying to keep you from something because we don't want you to be hurt. Sometimes you need to discern what that heaviness is. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways. So you see the man who knows the right way to go. It seems like, and you've given him his counsel, and he knows that he's doing something that is wrong, but he knows the right direction to go, but then he backslides. He kind of falls back from it into his own way. And then if he does this, there's a set way of doing something. The scriptures are all about that, is saying this is the way to go, this is what to do, this is what to look out for, and such like that. And the man oftentimes will, in the desire to just get things done, will backslide into his old ways. A man needs to be careful not to backslide into his own way. So what a wife is there to help him with is to make sure that he does things in the right way, in the righteous way, and that's not being it's not being a busybody in his life. It is being there to help him with his quality of life. You don't want him to fall down. Somebody, if left to themselves, husbands will eat ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner without the hot water, They'll just toss on maybe the spices and they'll just eat it hard and raw, and that's all they'll ever eat. But to say, hey, that's not good for your health, you up their quality, you get them a better nutritious meal and such like that. But if he backslides into his old ways, he's going to start filled with these bad habits. So the wife is there to kind of pull him out of that danger, make him eat better, make him exercise better, make him not to forget. Sometimes we're so focused on something, especially the sedentary lifestyle nowadays. Maybe she'll say, hey, husband, let's go for a walk, or let's do something to get some blood flowing. Let's do something that is more healthy and safer for us than to have this sedentary lifestyle. So even it's not just something that's dangerous, but rather bad habits. If you backslide, the backslider will end up being filled with his own ways rather than the right way, or the healthy way, or the nutritious way, or the good way. So the wife there building up her household is not just there to say, hey, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want. No, there's a quality, there's a virtue there that, remember, she's adding, she's building up her husband, she's building up her household, she's building up her family to where the quality of life is at a healthy level and a safe level. There's a way that seemeth right unto a man, diet-wise and health-wise, that is not healthy, and in the end thereof is death. Even in basic things of health and nutrition, even basic things as what neighborhoods to go into and so forth like that, and what times of day, or how late are you staying up, where are you going, where are you driving. These type of things, you have them do the right things rather than backsliding into their days when they're living by themselves. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways. Somebody who's married but then backslides in a single attitude. Somebody who's married and ought to be at home at a certain time doing certain things for the family backslides into his single ways, or hanging out with his buddies, or playing video games like a kid, or doing all these different things that they shouldn't be doing, but they end up getting filled with their own ways, and their wife becomes just kind of like a backseat driver. And they become an annoyance. You don't want them to fall back into that. You want to make sure that they keep the quality up in that sense, not just because you're being pushy or anything, but rather because men tend not to think of those things, and they need to. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. Notice that, from himself. And this is quite an interesting thing, is that a backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. So if I draw into myself, and I do my own bad habits and my bad ways, and I think, oh, this is fine, no big deal, I'm not hurting nobody. And then my wife there, she will draw me from myself, and what will she do? She will help me, and then I will be satisfied for what she did for me. I won't be like, how dare you pull me from myself, from inside. She draws the best out of me. She draws these things out, and she keeps me from backsliding into my old ways as a guy, and doing things that aren't healthy for me, doing things that aren't safe for me, doing things that aren't right for me, and hanging around things and doing things that I ought not to be doing as a man. And she will make me satisfied with the proper life, with the right way to go. A good man will be satisfied when she does these things for him. Oh, thank you for the good meal. I'm glad you helped me with this. Thank you for giving me, suggesting that option or doing that thing for me. You're building each other up. A good woman does these things not to tear down her husband. She doesn't condemn him or blame him or insult him, but rather she's doing these things to build him up, to pull him out of his danger, to pull him out of things that could harm him. The simple believeth every word. So this is kind of where the backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied with himself. And then we see even in laughter, the heart is sorrowful. So how oftentimes do men try to cover up necessarily the backsliding? The simple believeth every word. Oh, my husband said he's okay, so he must be okay. No, you got to be careful. He will just kind of, oh, it's okay, it's all right. No, I know when you're tired. I know when you're this. I know when you're that. You need to, be helped in this area, so I'm going to help you. And then after the wife pulls him out, he'll be satisfied. The simple believeth every word. Oh, he told me this, so it must be okay. But the prudent man looketh well to his going. Now notice there that prudent man. Man is in italics there. So in other words, it's not just about the man, but it is the prudent. Notice there, but the prudent looketh well to his going. So whenever there's italics there, that they add it there for clarity, but you can read it both ways. So the prudent man and also the prudent. So this prudent can also be referring to the wife. The simple believeth every word. The simple wife believes every word that her husband says, even though it's laughter that is hiding mirth, even though it is, laughter hiding a sorrowful heart and mirth hiding heaviness. The simple wife will, okay, everything's good in this world. And then her husband goes off and does something dangerous or whatever and is not helped because she didn't lift him up out of it. She didn't build him up to the proper standard. But the prudent woman will look well to his going. His is not italicized, is his going. So the wife here can look to his going to be careful and say, okay, he says this, but he's doing this. So the prudent wife will see what he says and what he's doing. Is what he's saying matching up with what he's doing? And what is he doing? Is it safe for him? Or is it dangerous for him? And then she looks well to his going. He says here, but the prudent looketh well to his going. To his going. So as a wife, are you looking well to his going? Because he is your partner. You want to, just as you're building up your household, you want to make sure that he is built up in quality and standard and also the values that you see in him. Not the values that I think you should have these, but rather are there and that he himself has exhibited, but you want to make sure that he doesn't fall back into bad ways, and he will be happy for you because remember, the good man is satisfied from himself. You take him from himself so that you can be part of this unit together because he's not himself, he is one with you. You are a new creature. You have left your individual lives, and now you're one unit, and the wife is building this unit together so that he doesn't backslide into his singleness. He is continuing in his unity, and he'll be happy because you did this. A good man shall be satisfied from himself. And so don't be simple in just listening to what he says. Also look at what he says and what he does and consider what will happen if he continues down this path. Looks well to his going. It doesn't just kind of take your word for it, but rather looks well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil. Sometimes all it takes is a wife to kind of remind a husband, say, oh, wait a second. Oh, yeah, I am going down a dangerous path. Oh, yeah, that may not be the right way to do it. Thank you. And he will depart from the evil that might have befallen him or that he might have caused, but because the wife was a pacifying influence, rather than him responding in evil or anger, he says, wait a second, this is not a good way to go. This is not who I am as a person, and I will be careful in this area. But the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil. Reminding of that fear. Have a godly fear. The husband sometimes will not fear, but the wife fears for him on his behalf. The wise feareth and departeth from evil. The wise, whether man or the wife, but the fool rageth and is confident. The fool rageth and is confident. So if you let him backslide into not being discerning of fear, then he will rage and be confident and be harmed from the evil that occurs because of that situation. And so whatever situation you see danger coming, you want to protect the family unit from this danger, to give him a good fear, the godly fear that he has. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly. If you see that your husband has a tendency to have, he's a good man other than his quick temper, and then when he calms down, he is level-headed, but then in that moment of rage, you want to be able to learn how to calm him, soothe the savage beast, if you will, and such. And so he says, he that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, because all his good traits, if he gets soon angry and you're not there to pacify him, then all his good traits are for nothing because he becomes to act like a fool. You ever hear about people that were out of their mind? Because they were not in their right mind. It was because they were soon angry and they started acting like a fool. A fool doesn't discern evil. We talked about previously is that how the fool does not discern the evil to turn from it. And a fool just doesn't realize in the moment that he is causing evil or going to be harmed by evil. And a man of wicked devices is hated. When you start out, especially if you're not careful, ladies, you start out with a good man, but then if you allow him to backslide, eventually that leads into foolishness and quick-tempered, and then that quick-temperedness causes him to have devices, to devise evil, to devise things that are harmful. He starts getting into this area where he's going to, rather than do things the right way, he will start doing things that are increasingly harmful to himself and to others. How oftentimes do men, after years of marriage or something, you hear in the news that this man goes off and does something crazy. It's because his wife wasn't building him up. It was tearing him down, plucking him down with his hands, and the henpecked and the torn down and the demeaned, and people that fall into their old ways, and eventually they stop seeing themselves as a unit, and they start seeing themselves as getting soon angry for everything that their wife does or their husband does, and then they start devising things. You ever see it's crazy where a husband or a wife will get to a point where they devise ways to hurt or harm or kill their own spouse. How do you get to that point? Well, it's because the wife who is to build her husband up, even if he started out with all the traits that we talked about last week, and they started out close, how oftentimes they say, we used to love each other. How did they get from loving each other to the point of devising evil against each other? It's because they did not continue in this area. We talked about what to look for in before they get married, and now this happens after your marriage, to where you continually build him up in the proper way. You discern his path. You're intimately knowledgeable about who he is. You know how he thinks and what he does, and you're able to get to the point to where he will never devise evil or wicked devices. Wicked is, again, struggling against the proper way. And a man of wicked devices is hated, because then he'll become hated by the neighborhood. Next week we'll be talking about how the relationship of building up a house and the woman building up her house in the neighborhood, and how she interacts with the neighbors, and how her husband interacts with the neighbors around them, and how all that works. The simple inherit folly. Remember, somebody who's simple, they just look at the surface and they let him continue down his path that seems good. Oh, he likes going out with the guys till 2 o'clock in the morning. He likes to party on the weekends. He likes to do all these things. It's all right as long as he comes back to mama. I'm all right with it. No, that's not the way we're going to live. No, there's a standard. No, you're going to be home at this time. You married me, not some other girl, and you married me, not your boys. You are having a life with me, not a single party. You married me, not the TV. You married me, not to get video games. You married me, and we're going to have a life together. We're going to build this thing together. And some of these men that apparently, they seem good on the surface, but then when you get married, they start falling back in their old ways. You're going to be like, no, you're building this house together. You made vows to me. You hold them to their feet to the fire. Hold them to their vows. Because why? If you're simple and you act like a roommate, and as long as he's intimate with you every few days or whatever, and as long as he comes back to you every once in a while, you're going to inherit folly in your marriage. You're not going to build up your house. You're going to cause it to be destroyed. Why? Because you filled it with folly rather than holding your husband to the proper standard. And he's not satisfied. A good man that you hold to the standard will be satisfied when you pull him from himself to be one with you. But the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The prudent. So if you as a wife want to build up your house, you'll be careful to make sure that your husband is going down the proper path, that you are building him up, that you are making sure that he is going the right direction, and that you're making sure that he's one with you and not running off by himself as a one person rather than the family unit. You never think of yourselves as myself. You think of yourselves as Bridget and John. You don't think of each other as, oh, Bridget does that stuff and John does that stuff, but no, you think of Bridget and John, as a family unit. The prudent are crowned with knowledge. So the wife who is going to build her house, she will be intimately knowledgeable about the things that her husband does. And he will be glad that she is intimately knowledgeable. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. And so we see here in this passage that as she's building and she's holding his feet to the fire, and he appreciates her for it, and that he looks to see them as a unit rather than his own devices and backsliding into that, he will eventually bow before the good. The evil that is within me as a man, it needs to be directed. Evil in itself, be the ability to cause harm. Men need to be able to have that. Soldiers and people protecting their family. And there's a danger to being a man, and a man will have a danger about him and the ability to cause harm. But it has to be directed and focused. That evil that is within a man that needs to be directed to protect the family will bow before the good that is in the wife. And the wife will build that and direct that to the protection of the family. You don't want a man who is harmless and weak and pathetic. You want a man that is strong and dangerous. But you want that strength and danger to be part of the family unit, to be part of the building of the household. And if you do, that evil, rather than causing destruction and evil devices and hatred, will bow before the good. It's not the elimination. You don't want to emasculate your man, but you want to enhance it and direct it for the protection of the household. The evil bow before the good. And that's where the man allows the strength that is within him to be submitted to the good that is in the family unit. And the wicked at the gates of the righteous. You know, that desire to strive and to struggle, that doesn't get eliminated. It's not like, oh, now I'm a holy, righteous man and I never strive and struggle. Ooh, you know, it's just your favorite song or whatever. And then, no, it is that emotion that would normally want to struggle and fight against something is directed properly. The wicked at the gates of the righteous. This desire to fight and to beat and to forge my own path will be forged. You know, this natural desire to forge something will be forged at the gates of the righteous. Why? Because the wife guided her husband to the righteous path and enters into the gates of heaven, rather than the way that seemeth right to a man that goes to the way of death. The gates of hell shall not prevail against that family. So as we consider this, what path are you allowing your husband to strive for? Are you allowing your husband to go onto the broad way? Or are you allowing your husband to go the way of the simple and go the way of destruction? And so in building your house, ladies, this is something that you need to take knowledge in, is that how do you make sure that he doesn't fall back into this? And you do it together, not as a demeaning way, but as a building up and an edifying way. So with that, let's consider this, and we'll end there, and then we will consider next week the neighborhood, and how do we enhance the neighborhood through our life. And I was just thinking about this as well, is that an example, if you want to read it later, 1 Samuel chapter 25, the story of Abigail and Nabal. Abigail was a wise woman, a prudent woman, and she foresaw evil and protected her family from it. Nabal was a brat and a rude man, a churlish man is what the Bible says. And he invited this evil to come, and his household would have been destroyed if it wasn't for the wisdom of Abigail. So in some other time, when you have time, go ahead and read that story of Abigail in 1 Samuel chapter 25, and I think that'll give a good example of what this passage really means about a woman who foresees evil and protects her family. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this passage you've given us, Lord, the opportunity to consider your word. Lord, I pray that you'll help us to, especially as the women of the house, to build up the house and to help guide the men in this, even though they're in a submissive direction, that they are there as a builder and as edifier and as somebody who will look well to the going of her husband. And guide him and protect him and give him wisdom and help him in that direction, so that he doesn't cause harm to come back on the household, but rather will use those aggressive virtues that he has within himself, rather than to backslide and destroy himself and his family, to edify and protect the family unit. Lord, I pray just be with us as we consider these things. Just I pray. Amen.